Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Health and Safety Matters podcast. My name is Mark Sennett. I'm the CEO of Western Business Media, which is the publisher of Health and Safety Matters. Once again, this podcast is sponsored by the Health and Safety event. And if you don't know, you probably should know, the Health and Safety event takes place at the end of April at the NEC in Birmingham. So precise dates are the 28th to 30th of April. And it's all 3 days, and you can register now for free to attend not only the health and safety event, but your pass also gets you access to the fire safety event and the workplace event and the security event. Now, Health and Safety Matters is proud to be the lead media partner for the health and safety event. We will be there on a joint stand with the British Safety Industry Federation. And we also have our own stand on Ignite CPD, our digital streaming service for all of our events and webinars. So do come and see us. I'm always keen to hear from you any feedback on the magazine, the website, etc. Never more pertinent than now, because we've obviously just relaunched in the last few weeks the Health and Safety Matters website. So very keen to hear your take on that. If you haven't been to the new website, please do. The domain name is nice and easy to remember. It's hsmsearch.com, or throw into a search engine Health and Safety Matters. And now we've got a lot more tagged and related content, easier for you to access. We've got downloadable white papers. You can easily access our archive of webinars. Sign up to get our twice a week newsletter for free. Sign up to get print or digital copies of the magazine, and obviously our annual guides, the PPE Insights Guide or the BSAF Annual Guide to UK Safety. There is a lot on there, events calendar, so much that you can see. You can filter by topic, etc. Please do go to hsmsearch.com. If not, follow us on X or LinkedIn on our social media channels, because you do not have to wait for this podcast to see all the latest news, prosecutions, features analysis, products and services in the sector. You can go to our website or follow our social channels. Now, we always start this podcast with the news. And in this episode of the podcast, I wanted to talk about a campaign that Arco has launched. It's a powerful awareness campaign all about silent killer, which is silicosis. And this obviously can affect workers across the UK. So the campaign, which is called Breathing Space, it forms part of Arco's wider work with the all-party parliamentary group on respiratory health and calls for greater awareness, improved protections and stronger action to safeguard workers across high-risk industries from silicosis and other potentially fatal occupational lung diseases. So this campaign has been launched as new research has revealed that respiratory diseases are the third biggest cause of death in England, with around 1.8 million workers suffering from new or long-term work-related respiratory illnesses. That is a staggeringly high figure. Silicosis remains one of the most dangerous occupational health threats facing UK workers. A disease, which Arco describes as the silent killer, is caused by inhaling respirable crystalline silica, which is RCS dust, commonly generated during activities such as cutting, drilling or grinding materials, including concrete, stone and engineered stone. An estimated 600,000 workers are exposed to silica dust every year, and tragically more than 500 workers die annually as a result of this exposure. So by shining a spotlight on the issue through this Breathing Space campaign, Arco aims to spark a conversation on it, which is obviously what we're talking about today, and inspire drastic, immediate action to combat the disease that often develops silently over decades. So just talking a bit more about this, if you're not aware of silicosis, it's a progressive and incurable lung disease, unfortunately. Early symptoms can include breathlessness, fatigue and persistent cough, and severe cases can lead into disability, premature death, and an increased risk of secondary conditions, including chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, tuberculosis, lung infections, and lung cancer. So the economic impact is also very relevant here. We shouldn't stray away from the most important part, which is the human impact, but the economic impact of silicosis is also now significant, with occupational lung disease believed to account for more than 400,000 lost working days each year in the UK, costing construction employers an estimated £1 billion annually. Respiratory disorders cost the wider economy £11.1 billion every year, with £10 billion falling directly as a cost to the NHS. So while silicosis typically develops over 10 to 20 year exposure, higher levels of silica dust can cause a more rapid onset. So despite the scale of the issue, silicosis is still an entirely preventable disease, which is what Arco and we're trying to say today, when the correct workplace controls are in place. That's absolutely vital. And under COSH regulations, employers in the UK must limit workers' exposure to silica dust, including a requirement to conduct thorough risk assessments and the implementation of preventative measures, such as dust extraction, wet cutting methods, and appropriate RPE. So I just felt that this was something that was worth going over. We haven't talked about it for a while. It's great to see that Arco are shining a light on this with their campaign. If you'd like to find out more about this campaign, I would strongly urge you to do so. You can go to Arco's website and look at the research into silicosis, and that is www.arco.co.uk, and you can see it in the PR section there. So please do head over to their website and have a look at that. So I want to talk about another illness now that we've done a news story on, and it's on a Legionella outbreak. And there are growing fears surrounding a recent rise in Legionella cases in London. In fact, a Legionella testing authority is urging facilities to reassess water safety protocols to ensure that they're doing their utmost to alleviate what is becoming a growing public health risk. So this comes out from a new report from the UK Health Security Agency, which is UKHSA, which is currently investigating a cluster of Legionnaires cases in northwest and southwest London. Though the majority of cases are reported as single isolated cases, specialists from the public health body are trying to uncover the source of the disease. Legionnaire's disease is a potentially fatal lung infection caused by inhaling droplets of water containing Legionella bacteria. Common sources of the outbreaks include contaminated cooling towers, air conditioning systems, showers, and taps that have not been properly maintained. So, with this outbreak raising alarm to the UK's leading Legionella testing authority, HydroSense is reminding facilities managers of the importance of rigorous water safety measures. This includes regular testing, temperature monitoring, and disinfection procedures to reduce the risk to the public and ensure absolute best practice. So I've got a quote from Gary Rankin, who is the CEO at HydroSense. He said, "Take a look at the recent number of high-profile Legionella cases around the world, such as in New York, and it's clear that this is not an isolated incident. The reality is that Legionella isn't a distant threat. It's a growing public health risk thanks to a myriad of factors such as climate change, our ageing infrastructure, and evolving water patterns. Legionella has been on the ascent for a number of years. Highly dense urban air environments are particularly vulnerable due to the complexity of their water systems and the scope of the exposure." That was what Gary had to say. So Legionella bacteria actually thrives in standing water, normally when nutrients are present and the temperatures are between 20 degrees Celsius and 45 degrees Celsius. They do remain dormant in temperatures, though, below 20 degrees Celsius and cannot survive above 60 degrees Celsius. Though current regulations stipulate several key measures for water safety, including risk assessments, monitoring, and maintenance protocols to prevent Legionella growth, HydroSense is warning that these measures are no longer going far enough. Among the key concerns is the continued reliance on traditional laboratory culture testing, which can take several days to deliver results and may fail to detect low levels of Legionella before they become a serious risk. And again, another comment here from HydroSense. They want to see more proactive approaches, including rapid testing, continuous monitoring, and real-time water system analytics. These are now essential, they say, to safeguard public health, especially in high-risk urban areas. So, if you want to find out a bit more about this, and again, it's not another thing that we haven't covered for a while, Legionnaire's disease and Legionella, you could obviously go and look at this article on our website, hsmsearch.com, or go straight to the HydroSense website, which is Hydrospense, spelled HYDROSENSE, hyphen Legionella.com. Right, so on to our next story now. And I want to draw attention to homeworking and your responsibilities. Something that our business has responsibilities too on that, because the majority of our workforce tends to work remotely. Now we're about a 30 strong business where I would say probably only 5 or 6 people in the office regularly. So this is particularly pertinent when I was reading through, and I thought I would share it with you, because over a third of workers in Great Britain now work remotely or have hybrid working arrangement. But not all employers realise that they have health and safety responsibilities that are equally applicable in the home as they are in the workplace. So a little bit of guidance here from the Health and Safety Executive, who's reminding employers that they need to assess the risk of all home workers. Home and hybrid working is now found across almost every sector and business size. Latest figures from the Office of National Statistics show, and these were shown in January of this year, 38% of workers in Great Britain are now working remotely or in some kind of hybrid arrangement, 25% hybrid and 13% fully working remotely. The HSE is advising employers to pay particular attention to 3 essential areas: stress and mental health, the safe use of display screen equipment, or DSE abbreviated, and the working environment, including accidents, emergencies, and lone working. This is actually a legal duty, not optional guidance. And we've got Barbara Hockey, who's the HSC Engagement Policy Division, commenting on this. And she says, working from home can deliver benefits to both employers and employees. But with more than 3 in 10 workers now working remotely or in a hybrid arrangement, it's important that employers understand their responsibilities. The good news for bosses is you don't need to physically visit someone's home to fulfill your duties. Most of the time, the risks are low and the steps to manage them are straightforward, and the HSE is offering free guidance to support you. And that's probably where I really want to point you now, is you can look at this article in the news section of our website, hmsearch.com, but they are offering free practical resources, and that is readily available on the HSE's website, which is hse.gov.uk. And this will help businesses of all sizes listen to this, carry out home working risk assessments to make sure that you're meeting your legal obligations. So I would strongly suggest anyone listening to this, if you've got any remote or hybrid workers and you haven't done this, this is something that you're obligated to do, and you should absolutely do it. And that is now a nice tenuous link, as if I planned this, of talking about workplace best practice. And I often say this, I say it annually actually, the best part of my job, in my opinion, is seeing people delighted when they get shortlisted on the Safety and Health Excellence Awards or any of our award scheme, the Fire and Security Matters Awards. Very much looking forward to the new Women in Safety and Health Awards opening their entries in April. And we announced the shortlist last week. We had a record amount of entries. It was absolutely bananas how many of you entered. I believe it was 437 entries, which just shows, as we come close to the 10-year anniversary next year of us launching these awards, that they're more important than ever. They are the sector's biggest awards event, but they mean something. In my opinion, this is what a magazine should be doing. It should have a cause. And our job as Health and Safety Matters is to obviously share best practice and case studies with you and industry updates, legislative updates. But we should also celebrate the job that you do in keeping people and property safe. And other campaigns that we do, such as a big campaign for us, as you know, at the moment, is encouraging more women to take health and safety as a career or have career progression in the sector. This is what I think magazines should have as causes. And these awards serve as a cause for shining light. And we all know in the past, health and safety has been maligned by certain parts of the media. But you know, done properly, health and safety is absolutely essential in keeping people safe. And you guys deserve to have a spotlight shine on it when you do fantastic work to meet those objectives. And, you know, I'm lucky, lucky, or drew the short straw, not quite sure here. I'm the one that has to contact every single person that's been shortlisted. And that means I hear back and, you know, I see a lot of excited people saying they're thrilled to be shortlisted and it means so much to them or their team. And that gives me huge pride and huge pleasure. It shows how important these awards have become to people. It is the sector's biggest night of networking and celebration, but its cause is greater than that, as we just explained. It's shining a light on the good stuff, the key stuff that you do to keep people safe. So I would like to not only thank all of our sponsors, including our headline sponsors, EcoPortal, but I'd like to thank all of you that entered. Thank you so much for doing it, you know, and thank you to our judges who are now got the unenviable task of having not only helped with the shortlist, now they've got to actually pick winners. Good luck to them on that. But thank you for entering. Thank you for showing that these awards are important at shining a light on what you do. I mean, you know, I won't read through the shortlist. You can see it at she-awards.co.uk. But the categories were best driver risk management performance, best health and safety manufacturing, best health and safety project, best use of health and safety data to lower incident rates, campaign of the year, distributor of the year, health and safety manager of the year. In fact, we had so many for health and safety manager of the year and health and safety team of the year. We've actually had to create secondary categories for International Health and Safety Manager of the Year and International Health and Safety Team of the Year because of this now being a worldwide appeal for it, which is fantastic to see. We've also got Health and Safety Consultancy of the Year, the Inclusivity Award, Marketing Campaign of the Year, Rising Star, Risk Management Product of the Year, Safety Excellence Award, Sustainable Company of the Year, the Alan MacArthur Unsung Hero Award, a very important award to us because Alan MacArthur sadly died a number of years ago, just before the launch of the original Safety and Health Excellence Awards, and when he was working at 3M. And, you know, he was a huge supporter right from the start of these awards and was a practitioner in the sector his entire life. So we dedicated in the second year and ever since this category to him. And we've also got Training Provider of the Year, Woman of the Year, and we will be announcing a Lifetime Achievement Award as suggested by the judges on the night. Now, this is a shameless plug. Obviously, if you are shortlisted, congratulations. You need to act quick, though, because we've already sold over half the tickets. It's bigger than ever. We sell out every year. We've had to move to a bigger venue, which is the Coventry Building Society Arena. You will see nothing like this. It is in a 4,000-metre hall, carpeted, drapes, dodgems, funfair stalls, fire breathers, stilt walkers, casino tables, photo booths, magicians. Our comedian host is Catherine Ryan, who's obviously very, very well known. Three-course dinner, drinks reception. It is an absolutely mega party with over 800 people coming. But it's a great opportunity for you to celebrate your achievements with your team, just for being shortlisted. Obviously, you hope to go one better, but also, it's a who's who of health and safety is there. Even if you're not shortlisted, do come along. It's straight after our event, Health and Safety Matters Live, that takes place in the same venue. This is on the 1st of July at the Coventry Building Society Arena. We'll be opening registration for HSM Live in a couple of weeks. That'll be free to attend. The awards take place in the evening of the 1st of July, and 50% of tickets have gone for that. There is an early bird booking discount, which gives you 10% off until the 1st of April 2026. And all you need to do is go to she-awards.com and click on the big book button on the homepage or the ticket tab on the main navigation. And you can buy individual tickets, tables of 10, tables of 12. But tickets will sell out. They always do. And we've never put on quite as much entertainment as this before. So do come and join us. We really, really hope that you can join us on the 1st of July 2026 at the Coventry Building Society Arena for the Safety and Health Excellence Awards. And thank you once again to all of you that took the huge effort and time to enter these awards. We will reopen entries for these again for next year's awards at the end of September. So now it's time to introduce the guest on this episode of the Health and Safety Matters podcast, and I'm delighted to be joined by Adam Pope. He is the Head of Safety Marketing for UK and Ireland at Draeger Safety UK, but he's been with Draeger for a number of years, 6 years in fact. And we've got a number of questions focusing on the growing use of AI connecting across the safety industry, but we also talk about Draeger's annual Safety at Work report, which has become well known for exploring contemporary attitudes to workplace safety. So we talk all things Draeger, all things AI in the safety sector, and we do cover this workplace report. So I sat down with Adam earlier today, and here's what he had to say. Morning, Adam. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Mark. How are you?
Yeah, it's great to see you. Thank you for coming back on the podcast. One of the few returning guests we've had. It's always great to have you back. And we've got quite a bit to go through, actually, this time. I mean, I've got a list of questions I want to ask you, but I also want to talk about some upcoming stuff that Draeger is doing with HSM as well. But let's kick this off. So we're living through times of considerable volatility and uncertainty at the moment. What impact do you believe this will have on workplace safety, and specifically the way that we use technology and AI in the safety sector, Adam?
Do you know what, Mark? It's a really good question, very pertinent to the times we're in at the moment. I mean, you need to step back and look at the wider context, turn on the news, and you see how much uncertainty organisations, people are dealing with at the moment. We've got the geopolitical tensions, more instability around the world, and that is resulting in economic pressures, supply chain disruption. You only have to look at flights being cancelled at the moment, inflation, I think it was up to 3.3%. All of these are resulting in, economic pressures, an environment that organisations are operating in that's become much less predictable than it used to be. And, you see this being described as a VUCA, V-U-C-A, a VUCA world that's volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. I think that's probably the best way to describe the world we're living in at the moment. It's a kind of environment that will clearly affect how organisations approach safety. When conditions are changing quickly, it clearly becomes a lot harder to rely purely on long-term planning and static safety processes. This be a lot more dynamic. And safety teams are increasingly needing to be able to respond quickly and adapt as the situations evolve around the world. And that's where technology is starting to play an important role, Mark. So, in a more volatile environment, we're seeing organisations needing greater speed, greater agility in decision-making. They need better visibility across their operations and the ability to understand what's happening in real time. And we're seeing this through the growth of what we call smart safety solutions or connected safety solutions. So modern safety technology, these could be gas detection systems, things like wearable monitoring devices, asset management platforms. All of these are increasingly connected and they're capable of generating large volumes of operational data. And I'd say this is certainly what I call the new normal, because if you think back to 2007, Mark, when Steve Jobs, the late Steve Jobs unveiled the iPhone for the first time, a lot of people thought he was a little bit crazy. Thought, why do I want a phone that's an iPod? And, I just want a phone that's a phone. Of course, the rest is history. It's changed the world massively. Now we've got everything, smart light bulbs, smart thermostats, we've got smart technology in our car, everything connects back to the cloud in your phone. So that is the new normal. And I'd say the safety world has taken a while to catch up, but we are seeing that happening now. And of course, with that is the increase in the amount of data that we get on the back of it. But the real value of that data is actually the visibility it provides. So when safety managers can see information from across their operations in one place, it becomes much easier to identify trends, detect potential risks earlier, and for safety managers to be making faster and more informed decisions. But even then, the challenge of the data on its own isn't solving the problem. Actually, it only becomes useful when it's presented in a way that people can interpret quickly. So things like clear dashboards, meaningful alerts, good data visualization, and of course, taking this advantage, things like AI, advanced analytics, these are inevitably going to play an increased role in helping people focus on the information that matters most. So, to come back to your question, yes, in a volatile world, we are seeing a shift towards a more proactive approach to safety and the use of connected technologies, data insights, AI, to really identify risks earlier and act before something goes wrong.
So we touched on the economy and inflation a moment ago, right at the start of the last question, but the UK economy does continue to be subdued. Is this changing the way that companies are approaching their acquisition of safety equipment, Adam?
Yeah, I think so. It's clear that organisations are operating under financial pressure at the moment, and clearly that's going to affect how they think about investments across the business, but that can include safety equipment. Draeger's Safety and Health at Work reports actually looked at this topic last year. So if you're not sure, Mark, or maybe the listeners aren't aware, the Draeger Safety and Health at Work report, or DSHORE for short, because it is a bit of a mouthful, I'll be honest, it's our annual report which draws on independent research aimed at capturing the view of employees and managers on the topic of safety in UK workplaces. So last year's 2025 DSHORE report actually highlighted some interesting statistics on this very topic. So just to run through some of the key ones, I'm not going to go through all the stats, Mark, but around 77% of respondents said they expect health and safety budgets to be impacted by wider economic pressures. So clearly it's on their mind. We also saw that 39% reported reduced staff levels affecting safety, and 36% said repairs and upgrades to facilities were being delayed. And finally, probably one of the last relevant statistics is that 27% reported outdated or poorly maintained safety equipment, okay, which is worrying. So, look, there's clearly pressure in the system. I think what I find interesting is how organisations are going to respond to that. And what we're seeing already is a shift towards thinking about total cost of ownership rather than simply the upfront purchase price of equipment. So safety devices, they often operate in demanding environments, of course, over long periods of time. So factors like reliability, lifespan, and things like sensors, batteries, the cost of maintenance, all of these things become very important when organisations are making investment decisions. But there's also on the back of that growing interest in more flexible models. And one of those could be equipment rental, for example. So in uncertain economic conditions that we're living at the moment, the ability to shift spending from CapEx, from capital expenditure to operational expenditure, that could be very, very attractive for organisations because it provides flexibility while still ensuring the right safety equipment is in place. I say we're also seeing strong demand for servicing and maintenance of existing equipment, and many organisations are looking to extend the life of the equipment they already have, which makes proper servicing, calibration, lifecycle management, all these aspects increasingly important. But with safety equipment, Mark, yes, reliability really matters. And if equipment fails when it's needed most, the consequences can be serious, potentially fatal. So, many organisations do realise and do understand, do recognise that focusing on long-term value and engineering quality, reliability, that these are often the better investment compared to simply just choosing the cheapest product, the lowest upfront price. So yes, the economic situation is having an impact, of course it is, but most organisations still understand that safety equipment is critical infrastructure, and decisions therefore now need to be based on ensuring the long-term value of the equipment rather than just focusing on the upfront cost.
I think that's a message that you've been very consistent with, Adam. It's something that we've been consistent with at Health and Safety Matters. It shouldn't be about having the cheapest solution. It should be about having the solution that's the safest and works the best. This is why we continually push, and so do you, the BSIF's Registered Safety Supplier Scheme, making sure you're only purchasing PPE from properly reliable, accredited providers from the RCSS scheme. And ultimately, it is about quality, and that is what Draeger provides. And we've actually, just so I remember this, Adam, we've actually got a webinar with you coming up on the 21st of May, 2026 at 10 a.m. And that is on Beyond the Mask, providing confidence in RPE program management. That's completely free for everyone to attend. Actually, it's Ian Kelshaw from Draeger that will be delivering that. As I said, that is on the 21st of May. I will throw it into the description of this podcast, the link to this, but it is on the HSM website, which is hsmsearch.com, and you can click on the webinars tab. It's all over our social media. Our twice a week newsletter is there. But 21st of May, we're doing that webinar with Draeger, and that is absolutely flying. Registration for that, and you will get a CPD certificate for attending that's personalised. So do stop by. So on to the next question I've got for you, Adam. So given the growing focus on AI and connected safety across the industry, do you think health and safety professionals should combine such innovation with maintaining a focus on the core fundamental principles of health and safety?
Yes, there's no doubt that cloud platforms, connected systems, AI, they're all becoming a much bigger part of the conversation around workplace safety. AI is being talked about all the time. There's people are concerned about its effects on jobs, but also the benefits that AI can bring as well. So, modern safety technologies, as I mentioned before, is the new normal, but they're increasingly connected. And yes, that means a lot more operational data than ever before. And it allows teams to be able to see what's happening in real time and respond much more quickly if something changes. In areas like gas detection, for example, connected systems can link portable devices, area monitors, man-down functionality, fixed gas detection systems, central dashboards, all of these things can come together. So safety managers can immediately see where alarms or incidents are occurring, the conditions that workers are operating in, and how those incidents are developing. So as the volume of data generated by safety systems grows, I think we will see AI help interpret those large data sets. AI is great at dealing with big data, identifying trends, patterns that might indicate emerging risks and preempt those. And in that sense, these technologies are really positive, a really positive development because they allow organizations to move towards a much more proactive approach to safety. But as we talk about all these things, as you alluded to, Mark, we're talking about data, AI-related topics. Some safety leaders in the industry have flagged their concerns. To me personally, actually, and even commented on some of the social media posts that I've put out there, they've said, look, that they're concerned that the human element gets removed, and how important our own judgment, our own human judgment is when it comes to safety decision making. And it's true. So it's important to remember that these technologies are there not to replace human expertise, but to support human expertise. Safety leaders still bring their own experience, their own judgment to make the right calls. Another key point is that technology should support good safety practice rather than distracting from the fundamentals. It's easy to get carried away with this technology, and it can distract you from the basics. So there's a tendency sometimes to focus on the latest digital features, connected capabilities, but we forget that actually the foundations of safety still remain the same. And we do need to go back to basics sometimes. We need to remember reliable equipment, properly trained personnel, clear procedures, the regular maintenance and calibration, as I mentioned before. These are still absolutely non-negotiable, essential. And having a strong understanding of those basics is what really enables organizations to make the most of new technologies. When people understand the fundamentals of how safety equipment works, how risks are managed, then it becomes a lot easier to adopt and benefit from the latest innovations. So I don't see it as traditional safety versus digital innovation. It's about integrating the two. They're not competing with each other. Strong fundamentals, they provide what is the foundation. And then technologies like cloud platforms, AI, they provide additional insight that really helps organizations manage risk even more effectively. And yet never forgetting the importance of human judgment throughout.
I want to go back to something you touched on earlier, the annual safety at work report that Drake does. Now, we've covered this on the HSM website, so do go on to hsmsearch.com and have a look at this, and I'm sure you'll tell us a bit more about it now. But in terms of your annual safety at work report, this has become well known for exploring contemporary attitudes to workplace safety, and last year actually included an exploration of the important role of psychosocial safety in the workplace. Can you tell us more about this and why it's important, Adam?
Yeah, look, the D-Shore is something we do publish each year to explore how people working in different industries are perceiving safety in their organisations. Psychological safety has actually become an increasingly important theme in that research in particular. So one of the most interesting findings from our report last year was that around 65% of respondents believe that a lack of psychological safety can actually contribute to physical safety risks in the workplace. There's a connection there. So in simple terms, psychological safety is about creating an environment where employees feel comfortable raising concerns, asking questions, highlighting potential hazards without worrying about negative consequences. Okay, of course, that's important. And in many organizations, the people closest to the job are often the first to notice when something isn't quite right. So if they don't feel able to speak up, organizations lose an incredibly important opportunity to identify those risks early and prevent incidents. So this research in D-Shore highlighted how closely linked that mental well-being and safety performance can be. And around 80% of respondents also said that mental health and well-being are intrinsically linked to workplace safety. And when you look at the factors people identified as affecting psychological safety, workload pressures were the most commonly cited risk at around 48%, followed by financial stresses at 42%, and finally a lack of supportive leadership at 30%. And what this really enforces is that strong safety performance isn't just about technology, process, procedures. Those things are essential, and the foundations I talked about before, Mark, but it's also about culture. But they work best in an environment where employees are feeling supported, feeling engaged and confident in raising concerns if something doesn't look right. And that goes right through to the core. So when organizations combine robust safety systems, which is what we want, with a culture where people feel comfortable speaking up, that's when it creates a much stronger foundation for managing risk. And one of the reasons we include topics like psychological safety in the D-Shaw reports is that, workplace safety is increasingly understood as a combination of people, processes, and technology. And organizations that focus on all those three areas do tend to build much stronger safety cultures. But our next D-Shaw report will be out later this spring. So hopefully you and your listeners will keep an eye out for that and expect some of these insights to feature in there actually in more depth.
No, we absolutely will. We always cover it. It's a really, really interesting report. We always do a news story on it, put it on the newsletter, and I'm sure we'll discuss it. Well, probably be me discussing it on the podcast when it comes out, which I think I did when it came out last time, and you can hear that back in the archives of any previous the previous editions of the H10 podcast, including an interview we've done with Adam in the past. So go back into our archives and listen to that. But last, I've got another question for you here, Adam. So Draeger is obviously a much larger company than many people realise. You've got expertise across so many different areas. From safety technology to gas detection to drug and alcohol testing, respiratory protection, self-contained breathing apparatus, and much more. And we've covered a lot of those in articles and webinars with you over the years. But if there was one thing you'd like more people to know about Draeger, what would it be?
It's an interesting question. I mean, it sounds like a bit of a cliche, but I'm genuinely incredibly proud to work for Draeger. We could spend hours with me talking about Draeger. We don't have the time. And there is so much I'd love to touch on. I mean, Draeger's been around since 1889. We've got over 16,000 employees worldwide, and yet we're still a family company. That's pretty unusual and unique in the world these days. And then when you combine that with a focus on life-saving technologies, both safety and the medical sectors, and a lot of the work we're doing on the national resilience side at the moment as well. This all provides a very unique and fulfilling environment. I'd say if I've got to choose one thing, I would say many people see us purely as a manufacturer of safety equipment. Of course, that's our foundation, and that's what we do. We develop a wide range of technologies across areas such as gas detection, respiratory protection, those areas you mentioned before, Mark. But we're so much more than that. In reality, a big part of what we do goes beyond just manufacturing. We also work closely with organisations to help design and implement complete safety solutions that address the risks they face in their specific environments. And this can include things like engineering consultation, gas detection system design, do things like gas mapping. That actually helps us do studies to understand where hazards may exist, integrating safety technology into customers' wider operational systems. We have a huge amount of capability, and we also support customers through the life cycle of those systems with services such as maintenance, calibration, equipment rental, and another important aspect of our capability is training. Through our academy, we offer a wide range of training programs designed to help organisations build competence and confidence when it comes to using safety equipment, but also managing workplace risks as well. So, look, safety systems are a critical infrastructure within organisations. So having the right expertise, training, and long-term support behind them is actually just as important as the equipment we provide. And as you know, Mark, many of the industries we support involve complex, high-risk environments. So organisations do benefit from working with a partner who understands not just the equipment itself, but also how it fits into the applications, how it fits into the wider safety strategy. And underpinning that, you've probably heard Draeger's long-standing philosophy and tagline, technology for life. That's a big part of the reason why I love working for Draeger. It's all about ensuring that workers return home safely, to their families at the end of the day. And that's really ultimately what makes me proud to work here.
Yeah, and that's absolutely a message we keep pushing on this podcast, that everyone has the right and expectation to come home safe. Your passion always shines through to do with Draeger and these topics. But I want to conclude this is, if people want to find out more about Draeger or they want to get in touch directly with you, what's the easiest way to do that, Adam?
So they can find me on LinkedIn. If they search for Adam Pope, you'll find me on there. Or you can visit our website, draeger.com, where you'll find all information across our wide range of safety solutions on there as well.
Well, thank you so much for making time to join us again on the boy. It's always great to have you back on. I'm sure we'll have you back on in the future, and we look forward to having you guys doing a webinar with us next month. So, Adam, thanks for your time today.
Pleasure. Thanks, Mark. Thank you.
And that's all we've got time for in this episode of the Health and Safety Matters podcast. Thank you to Adam for joining us for that great interview. Now, as I always say, you don't have to wait for this edition of the podcast or any further podcasts to come out. You can go to our website, hsmsearch.com, and get all the latest news, prosecutions, products and services anytime you want from the UK health and safety sector. You can go there to sign up to our twice-a-week newsletter. You can see all of our upcoming CPD webinars on there. You can the one with Draeger that I have mentioned. You can also see all of our digital editions of Health and Safety Matters magazine, or sign up to get those in digital or print formats, including our guides to the British Safety Industry Federation Annual Guide to UK Safety, or our annual PPE Insights Guide that will come out in the summer. So yeah, you can also follow us on X or on LinkedIn as well. And thanks also to the Health and Safety event, who are the sponsors of this podcast. And as I mentioned at the start, you can join us on the 28th and 30th of April at the NEC in Birmingham. It's completely free to register at healthandsafetyevent.com. Your pass will get you access to the Health and Safety event, the security event, the workplace event, and the fire safety event. We are the lead media partners for those shows, and we've got stands in the Health and Safety event, the fire safety event, and the security event. Or you can come and see us on the BSIF stand at the event as well. So please do come and see us. It's always great to catch up with you guys and give your feedback on the podcast and the magazine in general. But until the next edition of the podcast, thank you for joining us. And I hope to see you on another edition of the Health and Safety Matters podcast.